actually the origin of Bitcoin was exactly that, right?
Exactly.
People were fed up with how the governments were controlling money, and on a snap of their fingers they can create inflation, deflation, and everybody was just subject to that, and they just had to follow. And with the Lehman crisis and everybody having a strong resentment against the establishment of the banks. They wanted to have something different. And then along came Bitcoin, which was kind of like the answer to that. So I think a lot of fanatics really jumped onto that. And well, I wouldn't say fanatics, people who were fanatic about it, jumped onto that and really carried the story for now 10 years. And I really, and part of me was like, yes, I believe in that too. And it's not about governments trying to support us, even though we're all generally live in a democratic society. But with the different, the changing social confinements of society right now, I think democracy is being undermined quite a lot, and people want to see something that's more democratic. They want to take control of their lives, and Bitcoin was probably one of the answers to that.
No, absolutely. I mean, there is Einstein's third law of motion, right?
Mm,
So Newton's third law of motion, which that is every action is an equal opposite reaction.
mm,
So Bitcoin came about because it was a reaction to what happened 2008 when you no longer have control over the future of uh, your wealth,
mhm,
because money, the rudimentary aspect of it is time. Human being is 24 hours a day. We go work in the computers, or we go work in the field. We cannot be everywhere. We cannot be producing in the field and then cooking our food at home and growing vegetables and also working on the computer.
yeah.
So money was created as a way to sort of exchange value and
Mm,
store time,
mhm,
because you create surplus money, you could use it at a time when you're not well or when you grow
mm,
old or whatever. And when you do not have that certainty, if that certainty is taken away from you, then that financial system no longer, caters to your needs.
mhm,
And that's what happened in 2008. And the first
mm,
block of the Bitcoin blockchain contains the article from the Time magazine, the UK, which says chancellor in the brink of bailouts.
mhm,
So the idea that the taxpayer money could be taken to bail out banks, which you know um, did not have the right set of practices,
mhm,
which took on excessive leverage and gambled on things and built instruments which can no longer be sustained.
mhm,
There was no economic model that could sustain that kind of a risk,
yeah.
and um, and so it was a lack of transparency as well. So there are two types of people in the blockchain space. The first is the anarchists,
Yeah.
the crypto anarchists, and second is the practical folks like me. I mean, I love my governments.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of governments. I'm a huge fan of organizational structure. I'm grateful to some of the governments that I've lived in. I've lived in Norway. I've lived in India. Sometime here in Singapore. I visit the United States quite often. So I'm grateful to all these countries. I mean,
Yeah.
they're trying to do their best, but it's a very very complicated affair. I mean, I think about where I grew up in India.
Mm,
You're 1.2 billion people.
mm,
I mean, how can a couple of hundred people or 1,000 people run the welfare of a billion people? It's a very complex affair.
sure.
So when I think about it, I'm deeply grateful to them that they're thinking about all these problems, they're thinking about the future of these people. But the challenge there is that there's a huge information asymmetry.
Mhm,
Some of the
mm,
best people do not work for the governments.
yes.
And that's why I think Singapore is such a great role model. I went to MAS and met with some of the people there, like Swapnil Mohanty and others, and they're all very highly educated and
Yes.
they're very well paid.
Yeah.
In Singapore, it's one of the few countries where you actually want to go and work for the government because they pay very
Yeah.
high
It's true.
salaries.
And a lot of smart people work for that government. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so I think one of the ways to create participative democracies through blockchain, I mean, where you could have, for every issue, you could have voting,
Mhm,
and that votes can be recorded on the blockchain, made open, transparent, all that stuff.
mhm,
And I think we need to go into it because the common masses are no longer common masses.
yeah.
The internet has basically leveled the playing field.
Mhm,
Everybody's got access to information.
mhm,
And I think at least some of the critical issues when it comes to economy and politics and the direction of the people,
yeah.
there could be, like Germany did this experiment,
Mhm,
where they had this participative democracy. It's no longer once in 4 years you elect somebody and they run your
mhm.
show.
Right.
It's every major issue before it goes to parliament for discussion. They also open it up to the people
Yes.
to see what the people think about some of these issues.
Yes.
because the smartest people are out there. They're not sitting in the parliament.
Yeah.
I mean, the people in the parliament are very smart as well. But you have PhDs, as you rightly said. You have scholars, and they can all become part of the process of governance.
Sure.
Eleanor Ostrom, she wrote this work on. She got a Nobel Prize for work on the common pool resource theory, where she went and studied the Amazonian forests and all these places where the nature was getting destroyed.
Mhm.
And what she realized is that the reason why it was happening was because of greed, because
Mm.
the people who live in that area have no say
Yeah.
about how that area was governed.
Mm.
The lakes that matter to them, they had no say about them.
Mhm.
The forests where they live, they had no say about those forests.
Mm.
The decisions were made by people who lived 2,000 miles away,
Mhm.
who had never visited these places.
Yeah.
For them, it was basically numbers on Excel sheet. And so the idea there was participatory democracy, that the
Yeah.
people for whom some of these resources mattered had a say in it.
Yeah.
It need not be the final say,
Mhm.
but taking stock of what these people would think about
Mhm.
would make sense, because to them these things mattered the most.
Yeah.
It was their livelihood at the end of the day.
Yes.
So those are things that can be done very efficiently with the blockchain,
Mhm.
and so I think these are very powerful tools that have been given to us,
Mhm.
and we really have to evolve. I mean, Taka, wherever I go, I see tremendous amounts of dissatisfaction. I
Mhm.
was recently in Paris, where I was just walking on the streets. I suddenly saw these Eloists walking by,
Mhm.
a lot of young, smart French youth,
Mhm.
very unhappy with their governments. I was recently invited to Hong Kong, and then I saw the black shirts
Sure.
protesting. So all of this is a reaction to
Mhm.
governments perhaps not allowing or taking heed of what everybody is thinking about.
Yeah.
And this blockchain voting based system, or participatory democracy, could
Mhm.
potentially be one of the ways forward.
Mhm.
For some of these governments.
Sure.